Hi, I'm Jen from Tea Leaves in Tweed, and welcome to another sunrise tea session. This morning I'm having a heavy roast Dong Ding Oolong tea from the beautiful Taiwan Tea Company. This was part of an order I placed a long time ago when I first found out I was pregnant and haven't had a chance to try it all because I went off tea for so many months. But now that I'm back from my travels in Barcelona and it's still mostly cool enough to drink hot tea in the morning outside, I think I'd like to give it a taste. So let's brew. So today I'm brewing in my little Celadon teapot because I love this little teapot so much. It's perfect for just 1 teacup of tea. And I think I'm going to have my tea in my teacup that I got for my wedding last year. So here are our tea leaves. You can see this is a very tightly rolled oolong tea. This is actually 7 grams of tea. I know it doesn't look like much, but this is 7 grams of tea for this little 6 to 8 ounce teapot. And it's a dark roast. The tea leaves almost look like black tea at places. It has a very roasted scent to it. So I'm going to see what a first steeping looks like. Because this is so tightly rolled, I'm going to give it about a minute to start. Now our water is at about 190, maybe 195 degrees Fahrenheit. I figured it was important to have nice hot water for a tightly rolled oolong tea, particularly one with a heavy roast, to get a good idea of what it can do. As I said, it is mostly cool enough in the morning. It does feel cooler in the mornings these days than it does in the evenings, although it's a little bit muggy. And I think soon I'll have to start breaking out the iced teas, but that'll be a fun thing to share with you. However, while I was in Barcelona, I actually ended up having a lot of green tea. There's always green tea on offer at cafes, and I could learn the Spanish for green tea quite quickly. So I had a lot of green tea while I was away in Barcelona. I had almost no good tea while I was in Maine. So I think I'm ready for a little bit of oolong. So now it's been about a minute. You can see this is a beautiful golden apricot colored infusion. So let's give it a taste. So here I have my cup of first infusion of Dong Ding heavy roast oolong tea. It has a nice roasted scent to the infusion. Oh, it's got that classic oolong flavor to it that I sometimes describe as tasting a little bit like cannabis. But it's got a bit of honey sweetness and a bit of roasted sweetness. That kind of maltiness you get from roasting grains comes out. It's a really lovely cup of tea. The flavors are subtle but definitely present. I wonder if this tea will open up more on a second infusion, or if my taste buds are still a little bit dulled from the cold I had last week. So the reason I didn't film anything last weekend is because I was still dealing with a really nasty cold. And I was so congested I could barely taste anything, and it didn't seem fair to subject any of my beautiful teas to my truly wretched sense of taste last weekend. This is really lovely. One thing I find is that sometimes when I drink oolong teas, I tend to sweat, which is a little bit unpleasant at first when it's as warm as it is this morning, but I think I'm actually going to appreciate it as the day goes on and I have that cooling effect from my little bit of sweat. I actually do love to drink oolong teas while I'm sick because for some reason I just feel like they make me feel a little bit better than other types of teas. So I'm going to finish my first cup of tea, and then let's see what a second steeping tastes like. And we're back for our second steeping of this Dong Ding Oolong tea. Looking at the tea leaves, they have actually started to open up quite a bit. So that first minute was a good amount of steeping, I think, for a first steeping. But now that they've opened, I want to try steeping them again to see what more I get out of this tea. So I'm going to pour my water in. And I'm going to give this 30 seconds because, as I said, those tea leaves have opened quite a bit. With the summer and the mugginess come the bugs. So there are a few mosquitoes out today. I haven't actually spent that much time outside since I got back in August to notice all of the mosquitoes flying around. Now it's been about 30 seconds. For some reason this teapot is a little drippy. Good thing I'm outside. Oh, you can see already that is a nice darker apricot color. So let's give that a taste. I can smell it. Already smells like a darker roasted tea, like more of that dark roast has come out in the infusion. Ooh, it's much fuller bodied. It has kind of a smooth roundness to the mouthfeel. The one thing I didn't do last time is I never smelled the wet leaves. Oh, yes, that has a beautiful roasted, kind of smoky cannabis scent to it. It's a really nice oolong tea. I get a little less sweetness from this infusion, a little bit more, almost astringency, but it's really just a very subtle bite from the tannin. It doesn't taste like the kind of bright acidic astringency that you might get from a Japanese green tea. It's more of a subdued, almost like the tea's been aged, but not quite. I imagine that astringency would be the first thing to go if this tea were aged. Still have a bit of a cough. But this is just a really lovely, smooth cup of tea. So I'm going to finish this second cup of tea. And then I think we can do one more infusion. So we'll take this for a third spin. I think for our third infusion, I'm going to give this 45 seconds to infuse. So we'll time that now. And I'm just thinking back to my first tea video when I used this little teacup with silver needle white tea, and there was still snow on the ground. There is certainly no snow on the ground today. In fact, snow seems a long way off right now. But I guess theoretically, we're actually getting towards the end of summer. So hopefully we'll get some lovely autumn weather coming through soon enough. I really can't wait. I'm not one of those people who finds autumn to be their favorite season. I'm very partial to spring. but I do love the cooling down. You can see this third infusion has much the same character as the second infusion with that darker apricot color. Take a look at our leaves. Oh goodness, our leaves have expanded quite a lot. Let's see if we can pull some out. They've unrolled quite a bit and expanded and almost fully unfurled into the beautiful, large, older leaves that oolong tea tends to be made out of. So from that tiny little bunch of tea, I'm now filling about half my little teapot with wet tea leaves. So that just goes to show that it is really important to weigh your tea to determine how much you need to put in, because previously when I was drinking white teas, I was filling up my little presentation vessel and it was really only 5 grams of tea, and this one was barely a little circle on the bottom of the presentation vessel, and it was 7 grams, which is plenty of tea for this teapot. So I do highly recommend that you weigh your tea for loose leaf tea brewing. So let's give this a taste. This is very similar to the second infusion. It's maybe a little bit lighter in flavor. I get less of that astringency, although it comes in a bit on the aftertaste. So it's a slightly subtler cup of tea, but still very well balanced. I would probably infuse this at least one more time. But I'm being eaten by mosquitoes, and it's pretty muggy out here. So I think if I infuse this again, I'll do that inside in the comfort of my air-conditioned sitting room. But I'm glad you've been able to join me today for 3 steepings of this Dong Ding heavy roast oolong from the beautiful Taiwan Tea Company. I hope you'll join me again sometime. Bye.